Alright. I'm going to start this presentation by sharing my screen to explain the different content that will be shared. Alright. As I explained, the term structured water is also used for activated water and hexagonal water. In particular, the term hexagonal water refers to a geometric organization that water molecules take on once they gain energy. This means that this water has very, very special characteristics. While it exists in nature, there is decreasing availability due to various reasons, among which the water purification process itself destroys the nature of water, delivering us water that, although crystal clear, is practically dead or destructured water. So, the term structured water also corresponds to what could be called living water. Taking the example of one of the many companies that are beginning to exploit this technology. On the left, we have a symbolic image of the water molecule. One of its fundamental characteristics is that it is a highly bipolar molecule. In reality, all molecules, of everything that exists, associate bipolarity. This means that, within the laws of physics, opposite poles attract and form compounds. In this case, water is composed of oxygen and hydrogen. So, this attraction between molecules ultimately forms large bonds, clusters of water called molecular clusters, and these are too voluminous to penetrate the cells in our bodies. There are aquaporins that allow water to permeate. If the water is too thick, it has a lot of difficulty permeating through the aquaporins. Therefore, if water struggles to penetrate and flow freely through the cells, it cannot fulfill its natural functions at the energy level in the physiology and metabolism of the human body. Among these things, it cannot, for example, fulfill its purifying function and help eliminate toxins that accumulate in the human body because it lacks sufficient fluidity. So, for it to have fluidity and return to its true nature, as seen in mature springs full of life that naturally emerge without the support of pumping machines. When pumping machines extract water from depths, it can be said that it is water that hasn't sprung by its own effort, lacking enough energy to emerge on its own. This is because it hasn't undergone the maturation process. While it may be high-quality water, it is not at its 100% energy point because the maturation process of a deep aquifer takes a long time in terms of centuries. When the water goes through the energizing core, molecular bonds break, and the water begins to form a new structure. This is what we then know as structured water, which has higher energy and, therefore provides optimal hydration to the body. This phenomenon is not only about being simply hydrated, but there are numerous functions that water must fulfill within the body. Among these functions is facilitating the ionic exchange between cells. Because evidently, biological beings are fundamentally electrical beings as well. If the water is too thick, then it has a lot of difficulty permeating through the aquaporins, and therefore, if water struggles to penetrate and pass freely through cells, it cannot fulfill its natural functions at the energy level in the physiology and metabolism of the human body. Among these, it cannot, for example, fulfill its purification function and help eliminate toxins that accumulate in the human body because it lacks sufficient fluidity. So, for it to have fluidity and return to its true nature, as seen in mature springs full of life that naturally emerge without the support of pumping machines. When pumping machines extract water from depths, it can be said that it is water that hasn't sprung by its own effort, lacking enough energy to emerge on its own. This is because it hasn't undergone the maturation process. While it may be high-quality water, it is not at its 100% energy point because the maturation process of a deep aquifer takes a long time in terms of centuries. When the water goes through the energizing core, molecular bonds break, and the water begins to form a new structure. This is what we then know as structured water, which has higher energy and, therefore, provides optimal hydration to the body. This phenomenon is not only about being simply hydrated, but there are numerous functions that water must fulfill within the body. Among these functions is facilitating the ionic exchange between cells. Because evidently, biological beings are fundamentally electrical beings as well. As for water, we have to understand that in nature, water already has its own laws. The way it moves through rivers, in waterfalls, even in lakes. It has its own natural behavior. And often, ignorance of these laws leads hydraulic engineers, and also chemical engineers to design systems, whether for conveyance or treatment or purification, that have nothing to do with what nature does on its own. Usually, when we observe a mountain spring and the water flows crystal clear on its own, the valley accompanying the movement usually drains into deep valleys. They are lush because the water is carrying the energy with which it emerges at the surface level. Obviously, one must also realize that these conditions over time are practically no longer available. Not only in water purification systems, in treatment plants, whether private or municipal, but now there is the risk that natural sources no longer have the same level of purity and energy as before. Because agriculture has reached such a high level of industrialization where millions of liters are used daily for export crops, and often they already have additives, and many of these additives reach a point where nature can no longer get rid of them. Therefore, whether one likes it or not, mountain springs may already be contaminated by human intervention in nature. We must consider that just as we see on the surface and in the atmosphere, there is a large amount of water, even if we cannot touch it. Atmospheric water surpasses the quantity of water, even that of the sea. And evidently, there is a strong impact phenomenon because there are aerial fumigations to control the climate, which have truly poisonous elements and ultimately affect the microdroplets that make up the Earth's atmosphere. When humans intervene for the purification process, various substances are used, both to remove suspended particles and to add a number of substances that are not natural, that do not respond to nature, that create floccules. These are sediments that settle at the bottom. They are present, always somehow with a contaminating phase and the development of pathogenic microorganisms. Therefore, they are forced to use chemicals for disinfection. And these chemicals also affect the nature of water. And finally, it is a process of destructuring or denaturalization of the vital liquid. This means that the entire process by which purification is carried out is a contaminating process in itself. It complies with standards, international standards, standards of all countries. But these standards do not respond to the ideal processes with which water should be treated. And these technologies are 100 years old. And in 100 years, the number of new contaminants that have appeared is thousands, and therefore, the technology should have been outdated. In this case, but why isn't it surpassed? It's not a microscope because there is an evil interest in maintaining this where we can treat the unstructured water to human health and allow the development of another industry that also thrives within the water structure. Meaning that water when these chemical contaminants are used, residues of these contaminants come as a result of the purification, and these combine with other natural substances that are also contaminants. Just because they come from nature does not mean they stop contaminating. Iron, copper,
there are humic
germanium,
acids,
silver,
fulvic
zinc,
acids,
all
and
these
many
are
other
distributed
substances,
perfectly within
whether
the structure.
organic or mineral.
Additionally,
Present in
they are
water,
freed from pollutants
they provoke
and
reactions with chlorine.
As a consequence
with
of
chemical
this,
contaminants
for example,
that transform
this
into
almost
almost perfect
substances that are highly
distribution within the
dangerous
structure
to
of the
human
water
health.
molecule makes
So,
it possible
these
for plants,
reactions occur between
animals,
chlorine
and
and
humans
residual
to assimilate
substances,
these minerals,
and these new
turning
substances
water into
that
a nutrient
form are called
Therefore,
trihalomethanes.
the results are
They
reflected
come with
in the rapid
genotoxic
growth
risks
of
to
plants
health.
with greater
They are
productivity.
chlorine nature
The fruits have greater
compounds
intensity,
formed,
greater
causing
aroma,
genetic
greater
mutations,
colors.
spontaneous
All of this is a
abortions,
manifestation
premature
of how
births,
structured water
colon
turns
cancer,
into energy and is
and
capable
also
of transporting,
chlorine
destroys
delivering
the molecular
and making
structure
this
of
energy
water
viable
by
in
structuring
biological
all
subjects.
denaturalizing it.
We can
then
even if the
consider
drinking water
structured
plant
water
had
as
an
it is in
extraordinary
natural
purification
pure water,
system,
as in springs,
and it
without
managed
pollution
to
or contamination,
distribute
without
decontaminated
residual
water,
chlorine,
that would
it
free
is
us
activated
from the
water,
need to buy large
hexagonal
bottles
or
or
structured
tall
water.
purifiers.
In contrast,
And finally,
unstructured water
the
is
water would
denatured
return
water,
to being denaturalized and
Here are some
recontaminated
general
because there are
concepts
thousands
about
of kilometers
water,
of
but from a
pipelines
somewhat
and
more
cities.
scientific
And
point of
these
view,
geometric
expressed in
formations
completely
and the use of
understandable
different
words
materials that are
Let's
not truly suitable,
understand as water should be handled and transported. Finally, make the water,
without which
even if
life
it is
would
very
not be
well
possible.
treated at the municipal
Water
plant
simultaneously
level, to
has
reach
the
the domestic
properties of
tap
both the
again
gas
and the properties of the crystal,
denaturalized,
and its behavior often
So,
contradicts
as
either
a
of
consequence of
these
these
processes.
when we understand the functions
we
of a
have clean
crystal or a
water,
gas,
but
we can
contaminated
understand
with the
that both
residuals
are
of chemicals
manifestations of
that
energy.
were used in
Therefore,
disinfection,
water
and more
has a
and more
defined
elements are
behavior in
added to the
terms of
water.
energy.
And
That's
not
why
only
the
do they
structuring
destroy the vitality of
purification
the water,
treatment,
but they
not
perversely
filtration
have the
treatment.
function of
It is
destroying
an
energization
health
treatment.
And
finally,
what is
some of
being
them are
returned to
oriented
water
with the
people
structuring
to have a delay in the
process is
awakening
energy
of
that
their
is
levels
due
of
to the
consciousness.
mistreatment it
It
undergoes
has been
in
said,
different
therefore,
purification
that the
processes,
distribution
where all
pipeline
the laws
networks
of energy are
I
contradicted.
have traveled these kilometers.
Water constitutes
around 90%
are
of
corroded,
all contents within
accumulate a
plant
large
cells,
amount of contamination,
along with macro and micro
Similarly,
elements.
their
Water
geometric
is an
shapes
indispensable
are
element in any
unnatural,
soil composition.
inappropriate
Making new
materials cannot
cannot
revitalize the
plant
water
growth
and
in
naturally
ultimate
turn it into
conditions.
dead water.
It is also
and that's
functional in
the
a
water
formative
that
medium
commonly
for growing
reaches
plants
the
in
tap in our
sterile
homes.
conditions.
In response
If
to
we
the
have a
need,
substrate
an
that
entire
cannot
water
contribute anything
purification
to the
industry
development of
arises.
plants,
And
as in
there
the
are
case
many
of
defects
substrates
within that
used in
purification
hydroponic
industry,
crops,
among which
it
is
is
the
water
use
that
of
allows
ozone,
and facilitates
which
the
also
development
forms
of plant
bromides,
seeds,
even when they
which
are
also
cultivated
affect
outside
human
the
health.
soil.
And
Water
on
is
the
considered
other hand,
predominant for the
there is poor
transport of
management
ions
in
and
the
as a medium for the
distribution
elimination
system.
of toxic
The large
waste from
bottles are
biological
transported in
organisms.
open
It forms the basis of
exposed to
thermodynamics and acts
The bottles
as the
are main
stacked on
factor
top
for
of each other,
thermostabilization
whether you
of
like it or
organisms
not.
and climate
They will receive
stabilization
blows.
at the planetary
There
level.
is micro cracking
Speaker
of the
one,
plastic,
obviously,
and the chemicals
water
used
plays
in
a
making
role
the
on the
plastic
planet,
migrate
and
into the water.
climate
Stabilization
contamination
is achieved
So,
thanks to the
bottled
presence of
water
marine
also
currents
does
that
not
maintain
have
the
the
quality
quality
that
that
living
living
water should have to be truly safe for our
climates.
health. They
What
remain with a
happens?
stable climate
Apart
due to
from
the presence
quantum
of
nature
water
that
there is
influences
a
the
dynamic
atmosphere
within
with its
quantum
energy.
physics.
Hence,
From where the
it is said
vitality
that
of water
water
must
also
be
has a
understood,
functional
which
characteristic
establishes
as a gas,
its molecular
as the
structure
atmosphere
at the level
is a
of the composition of
composition of
gases.
It
And
was
as
explained
a crystal
at the beginning
because
that
we can
from groups
observe
of
36
stars.
molecules
Speaker
down
1
to 6
6
the
molecules
atmosphere
that
is full of
formed.
micro droplets that we cannot
why
see
it's
and
called
often cannot
hexagonal.
even feel, and they create
This allows
outstanding
the atmosphere
characteristics
to act
to
as
promote
lens
natural
because when
metabolic
spacecraft
processes
leave the
in living
Earth's
beings.
atmosphere,
They
and
cannot
in
see
which
the
water
stars unless they have a
intervenes,
crystal,
logically
in this
promoting
case,
physiology
water at
and
the atmospheric
in this
level.
aspect,
It
water
acts as a
is
lens,
practically an
allowing us to
indispensable
observe
element
celestial,
without which no
life
life
process
with the
would
naked
be
eye.
possible. Water is considered an integrity or a stage where life is exposed in a prominent and defining performance. Influencing biophysical sciences, it constitutes a fundamental pillar among intracellular organic liquids. It is the means of transport to facilitate the transfer of important chemical elements. Here, it is ensuring the normal vital activity of all systems of biological organisms. Water directly affects all processes of an organism, and all these processes, in turn, influence water, changing its properties. In this case, not only the overall action of water is important but also the influences on each specific molecule. Speaker 1, The structure of the spatial geometry of the water molecules bonds ideally matches the secondary structure of a macromolecule of DNA, ensuring the stable existence of the double helix formed from pairs of nucleotides. On the other hand, there are weighty arguments that the primordial ocean water, whose composition was very close to that of intracellular liquid, became the spatial matrix in which the first macromolecular DNA was synthesized. Healthy cells of organisms are surrounded by molecules of hexagonal, activated structured water, while diseased cells are surrounded by molecules of pentagonal, deactivated unstructured water. It is believed that unstructured water presses on cancer cells, causing their multiplication. This is because unstructured water has less weight and therefore exerts less pressure, allowing the cells to expand. Unfortunately, Western culture not only devalues but also ignores, and contradicts all this knowledge inherent to the laws of energy and the true laws of how nature works. Speaker 1. Centripetal formations that allow natural movement of water, capturing energy to sustain crops in areas that were originally completely desertic. This is an example in Nazca, Peru, where these formations have been preserved, and therefore, the knowledge of the laws of energy that are now known within quantum physics was already present in Andean cultures. There were crops at 5,600 meters altitude in Bolivia where they used raised beds, also known as inaguacos. In Ecuador, in the Cayambe area, similar structures existed. Unfortunately, landowners, unaware of the function of these structures, destroyed them with tractors, plowing and leveling the soil to adopt cultivation methods imposed by imported technologies. They failed to realize that the combination of sky, soil, and water created an ideal climatic situation for crop development. So, these are examples of how both geometry, which is not a random occurrence, and the ability to not only comprehend but observe and understand how energy behaves, allowed these cultures to design forms similar to the natural flow of energy. Regrettably, Western culture not only undervalues but also disregards and contradicts these inherent knowledge about the laws of energy and the true laws of nature. Speaker 1. So, here we have several examples in the highlands where geometric shapes are used as a natural means of energizing water. These are not whims or pseudoscience but true knowledge about the laws of energy and nature. Here are some examples of how water was channeled in Machu Picchu. A hydraulic engineer might question why they created an obstacle in the channel instead of allowing the water to flow straight for a faster current. This was done precisely to create vortices in its movement. Forming vortices not only facilitates gas exchange as the vortex draws in atmospheric gases but also absorbs ions because the atmosphere consists of charged particles. All molecules have atoms, subatomic particles, and, therefore, an ionic composition. Allowing water to move through obstacles creates hydraulic stress favorable to an increase in energy. Therefore, the water management in pre-Columbian cultures was not based on ignorant knowledge. Let's now explore the influences of water on health. As mentioned earlier, cells in a healthy organism are surrounded by structured water molecules, whereas cells in an unhealthy state are surrounded by unstructured water molecules. Structured water provides energy to life processes, contributing significantly in various aspects. The consumption of structured water naturally increases the potential of the body's autoimmune capacity to counteract infections without any alteration, that is, without negative effects on the vital parameters of organs and their functions. This fact also confirms that regular consumption of structured water offers health benefits for both humans and animals in a short period. Due to the energy core present in the device, in the structura. Structured water has a bactericidal and bacteriostatic effect caused by the memory that impacts each pathogenic cell. It can be assumed that there is a blocking zone in the bacteriostatic activity around each pathogenic cell,
which is the germ of the future colony where such bactericidal activity is more efficient. The intake of activated water for a defined period strongly slows down the development of tumors of two types, aortic carcinoma and sarcoma 37. Tests conducted on animal models with mice inoculated with human cancer showed a significant increase in the lifespan of sick animals. These tests were carried out in universities in Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. For efficiency and effectiveness of the anti-tumor action, optimal intake of activated water corresponds approximately to the methods of chemotherapy or radiation anti-tumor therapy. But contrary to them, it does not produce negative side effects on other organs and systems of animals. Speaker 1 inhibits the growth and quantity of colonies of pathogenic microbiological cultures. Modifies in a very significant way the influences of various antibiotics on microbiological cultures. Causes a very strong influence on the size and shape of cells in microbiological cultures. To their division. Impacts on changes in the activity of reductase. Affects the germination rate of plant seeds in vegetable crop cultures, affecting the growth of phytomass and other parameters of vegetable crops. I must clarify, the term effects does not mean damage but influences. It modifies in a very significant way and inhibits the growth of callous tissue. This refers to disordered growth that tends to occur in certain types of plants. Inhibits the growth of oncological cells. In modes of prophylaxis and therapy. Decreasing the volume of acidic fluid and the number of infected cells in tumors. This, together, leads to a significant increase in the lifespan of infected animals and stimulates the cytotoxic activity against tumors of murine lymphocytes. And has a stimulating influence on the cytotoxic potential of killer cells. This topic of killer cells is known because in scientific research, it was discovered that there was a type of bacteria capable of spreading limitlessly. And as this could eventually pose a threat due to excessive growth, these bacteria were able to create. Speaker 1. Killer cells that eliminated this excessive growth because these bacteria did not have a natural adverse factor. So the same is replicated in the human body as a form of self-defense. When the body reacts by creating cells that eliminate tumor development. Let's review some benefits in natural agricultural productivity. At the end of the talk, our friend Marco Chango Luiso will take over, and he will share his direct experience at home in a closed germinated crop. The results of specific experiments on the effects of activated water on various biological subjects, such as plants, microorganisms, humans, and animals, are briefly described and presented. It produces a superior stimulating action on the growth of plants, particularly horticultural crops. It is demonstrated that activated, structured water can strongly inhibit the non-specific growth of callous tissue by tens and hundreds of times. This result allows predicting its use for the therapy of a series of diseases, for example, psoriasis. It inhibits the development of pathogenic microbiological cultures tens and hundreds of times stronger. And this can be used for sterilization. Here I have provided an example of a photograph of dead seabirds due to the effect of avian flu. The same thing happens with swine fever. If water has a bactericidal and bacteriostatic effect, then the phenomenon of diseases in crops and farm animals disappears if chickens are provided with structured water. The quality of their byproducts, whether eggs or meat, improves significantly, and their risk of avian flu disappears completely. The same occurs in pig farming in industrial farms. Given that the potential is extremely strong and achieves practically sterilization not only in animal intake but also in the cleaning of facilities. Water structuring provides a series of benefits for the use of structured water in solving problems applied to the fields of medicine, biology, biotechnology, and agriculture. The main characteristics that unite all types of cellular juice are the high water content, reaching 98% in relative concentration. This is common for all living beings, known as organic water of life, playing an essential role in all biological processes, definitively influencing the metabolism and physiology of living beings, in our case, humans. Speaker 1. This implies that water is the main element of a biological system whose influences allow us to experience high-impact effects on these systems. Water can have a positive or negative influence on all stages of plant development, including seed germination peculiarities, germination speed, germination capacity percentage, surface growth of a plant part, such as a sprout, growth in height and weight, and root system growth. It can also influence leaf size, leaf surface area, and cause atypical appearances in leaf shape, size, and color. In particular, the observed reduction in viscosity in activated water should significantly influence the movement of cellular juice between xylem and phloem vessels. As mentioned, being much lighter water, it has a greater capacity for movement, transport, and dilution of nutrient elements that can be transported and distributed throughout the system, including the capture of energy by the leaves, allowing rapid sap movement, ascent or descent to facilitate energy and nutrient distribution throughout the plants. Speaker 1. If water is destructured, it becomes much thicker and finds it much more challenging to facilitate that movement. The change in conductivity and dielectric permittivity must strongly influence the movement and characteristics of ion transport in water. The water activation process induces the formation of molecular groups similar to the molecular structures found in living cells. The basic idea of molecular resonance effects technology is the direct transmission of pre-recorded molecular activity signals to biological systems with the help of activated water. Here we have a purely domestic example, on a kitchen counter. In the image on the left, on the first day, we have an onion placed in 2 equal amounts of water in 2 common glasses. On the first day, the plants are in equal conditions. The only thing that changes is that the glass on the right contains structured water, and the other regular tap water. On the 5th day, in the onion that was in tap water, barely 2 roots appear, and the first stem germ begins to appear. But on the 5th day, with structured water, the number of roots is extraordinary. And then, on the 16th day, the plant has practically developed all its foliage. Speaker 1. Logically, it is not transplanted, not in soil, but at this point, it is already completely demonstrated that despite the onion that was in tap water achieving significant root development, it has not yet developed its foliage. These tests were also conducted with another variety of tuber seeds and a variety of tubers from plants very similar to dahlias. In a laboratory in a city in the northern province of Pichincha, Ecuador, where the Salesian Fathers institutions maintain the Casa Campesina, an unusual root development was achieved in 8 days, while those in normal or non-activated water were just starting to sprout a few roots. The potatoes in structured water were practically completely populated with roots twice the size. So, onions watered with activated water show improved and accelerated growth of roots and shoots. It is the result of increased absorption and a higher level of energy from activated water that enhances biochemical reactions in living systems. In the natural laws that have been considered, including conventional physics, quantum physics, and the dynamics of nature, technologies such as nanotechnology, knowledge of materials, and sacred geometry are incorporated as part of the design of devices that must be considered to achieve the energy charge that water deserves. Speaker 1. Natural structuring due to the molecular vibrations of devices that are manufactured for the purpose of achieving consistency in energy charge. It is based on effects due to nanovibrations that allow water molecules to work at a more intense level. The structure synchronizes the spin movement, or vortex rotation, of electrons that induce a field. We are talking about an energy field, which reduces its movement and decreases energy waste as a result. Water passed through the use of the hexagonal structure comes with additional benefits. In conclusion, There is an increase in thermal conductivity in water and various fluids, an increase in dissolved hydrogen levels, an increase in surfactant potential in water. For example, when we are going to spray using pumping on the landscape, then we do not need to add surfactant. The same happens when water is used for cleaning processes. Simply, water is distributed very easily because it acts as if it were hot water. It achieves the effective separation of fats and oils. And there are noticeable improvements in fermentative and digestive processes, applied to vegetables, animals, and humans, as a consequence of this. For example, farm animals, many of which are polygastric, such as ruminants or ruminants. Speaker 1, then digestion improves, and as a result, milk or meat productivity increases. Here is an 8-inch high-flow device that has the capacity to process at least 500 cubic meters per day for high-demand industries, such as fish farming, aquaculture, and rice cultivation. This device is highly manufactured with the best technology and food-grade 304 steel. It requires no maintenance, consumes no energy, is detachable for cleaning purposes. If there is no pre-filter, it is recommended to use one if it exists. The pre-filter requires no maintenance, and its durability could easily last 50 years without replacement. Another view of a 6-inch device for animal watering, troughs and any type of industry. Among the benefits of devices capable of energizing water are many others that have nothing to do with the exploitation industry of biological subjects. It can influence equipment maintenance, even in buildings, food manufacturing, because it improves all qualities, making foods more palatable, reducing acidity and improving conditions for excellent digestion in the human body. It breaks surface tension, reorganizes water particles, making it more soluble, lighter, less viscous. Speaker 1, it counteracts the effects of hardness, salts, and iron. Reduces water consumption, total solids are reduced, water productivity increases. Enables the use of water unsuitable for agriculture. Improves nutrient assimilation, improves germination processes. There is an optimization of phytosanitary applications, increased efficiency of fertilizers and agrochemicals. Product quality increases. Production increases by 15 to 30%, and there is a longer shelf life after harvesting plants. It must be understood that all things, including biological subjects, such as plants, are maintained for a longer period if they are full of energy. How does it conserve this energy? Simply because its constitution contains water. And structured water has memory. Among the functioning. Speaker 1, it inhibits the growth and quantity of colonies of pathogenic microbiological cultures. It significantly modifies the effects of various antibiotics on microbiological cultures, impacting cell size and shape significantly. It influences the activity of reductase, affecting cell division. It also affects the germination rate of vegetable crop seeds and influences the growth of phytomass and other parameters of vegetable crops. It's important to clarify that the term affects doesn't imply damage but rather influence. It significantly modifies and inhibits callus tissue growth, referring to uncontrolled growth in certain plant types. It inhibits the growth of oncological cells in prophylaxis and therapy, decreasing acidic fluid volume and the number of infected cells in tumors. This, in conjunction, leads to a significant increase in the lifespan of infected animals and stimulates the anti-tumor cytotoxic activity of murine lymphocytes. It has a stimulating influence on the cytotoxic potential of killer cells. Speaker 1, the concept of killer cells is known from scientific research, where certain bacteria were found to propagate limitlessly. These bacteria, capable of creating killer cells, served as a defense mechanism against excessive growth, similar to the human body's defense against tumor development. Now, let's review some benefits in natural agricultural productivity. At the end of the talk, our friend Marco Chango Luisa will take over and share his first-hand experience with sprout cultivation in a closed environment. Specific experiment results regarding the effects of activated water on various biological subjects, plants, microorganisms, humans, and animals, are briefly described. Activated, structured water is shown to have a superior stimulating effect on plant growth, particularly in horticultural crops. It can strongly inhibit non-specific callus tissue growth, suggesting potential therapeutic use for diseases like psoriasis. It inhibits the growth of pathogenic microbiological cultures by tens and hundreds of times more effectively, suitable for sterilization. An example of dead seabirds due to avian flu is provided. Speaker 1. The same applies to swine fever. If water has bactericidal and bacteriostatic effects, diseases in crops and farm animals disappear when provided with structured water. The quality of byproducts, whether eggs or meat, improves significantly, and the risk of avian flu is completely eliminated. This also holds true for pig farming in industrial farms, where the potential for sterilization extends not only to animal consumption but also to facility cleanliness. Water structuring provides numerous benefits for use in medicine, biology, biotechnology, and agriculture. The main characteristic, shared by all types of cellular juice, is the high water content, reaching 98% in relative concentration. This organic life water plays an essential role in biological processes, influencing metabolism and the physiology of living beings, including humans. Speaker 1. Lack of water disrupts growth processes, potentially leading to plant death. Therefore, water is a vital component for any plant's existence. It can have either a positive or negative influence on all stages of plant development, including seed germination speed and percentage, surface area growth, height and weight increase, root system growth, leaf size, and appearance. A reduction in viscosity in activated water significantly affects the movement of cellular juice within xylem and phloem vessels. Being lighter, activated water has greater mobility, facilitating the transport and dilution of nutrients throughout the system. Changes in conductivity and dielectric permittivity strongly affect ion movement and water's transport characteristics. The water activation process results in molecular groups similar to those found in live cell structures. Speaker 1. The basic idea of molecular resonance effects technology is the direct transmission of pre-recorded molecular activity signals to biological systems using activated water. A domestic example is presented with onions on a kitchen counter. On the left, we have a photo from the first day of an onion placed in 2 equal amounts of regular tap water in 2 common glasses. On the 5th day, the onion in tap water shows minimal root development and the first stem, sprout. However, with structured water, the amount of roots is extraordinary by the 5th day, and by the 16th day, the plant has fully developed its foliage. Logically, it is not transplanted, not in the soil, but at this moment, it is already completely demonstrated that despite the onion that was in tap water achieving significant root development, it has not yet achieved foliage development. These tests were also conducted with another variety of tuber seeds and a variety of tuber plants similar to dahlias. In a laboratory in a city in the north of the Pichincha province in Ecuador, where the Salesian Fathers institutions maintain the Casa Campesina. Unusual root development was achieved within 8 days, while those in normal or non-activated water barely began to sprout a few roots. Potatoes in activated water were practically fully populated with roots, twice the size. So, these onions watered with activated water show improved and accelerated growth of roots and shoots. It is the result of increased absorption and energy levels from activated water, enhancing biochemical reactions in living systems. Natural laws, including conventional physics, quantum physics, and the dynamics of nature, play a role, incorporating technologies like nanotechnology, material knowledge, and sacred geometry in the design of devices to achieve the desired energy charge for water. Speaker 1. Natural structuring effects from nanovibrations of devices, manufactured with the purpose of achieving consistency in energy charge, are based on nanovibrations allowing water molecules to work at a more intense level. The structuring synchronizes the spin movement, or vortex rotation, of electrons that induce an energy field. This field reduces movement and decreases energy waste as a result. Water passed through the hexagonal structuring presents additional benefits. In conclusion, there is an increase in thermal conductivity in water and various fluids, higher dissolved hydrogen levels, increased surfactant potential in water, eliminating the need for additional surfactants during spraying, effective separation of fats and oils, and notable improvements in fermentative and digestive processes in plants, animals, and humans. Speaker 1. Applied to livestock, digestion improves, leading to increased milk or meat productivity. A high-volume flow, 8-inch device capable of processing at least 500 cubic meters per day is designed for industries with high demand, such as aquaculture, and requires no maintenance, consumes no energy, and is durable. Benefits also extend to equipment maintenance, building structures, and food manufacturing, enhancing overall qualities, making food more palatable, reducing acidity, and improving digestibility. It counteracts the effect of hardness, salts, and iron, reducing water consumption, total solids, and increasing water productivity. Activated water enables the use of less suitable water for agriculture, improves nutrient assimilation, germination processes, and optimizes energy efficiency in phytosanitary applications, fertilizers, and agrochemicals. Speaker 1. Product quality, production, and post-harvest lifespan are all increased. Additionally, it influences soil conservation, reduces soil salinity, and rehabilitates contaminated soils, showing results in just 4 months compared to nature's 1,000-year process. Water structuring improves water infiltration, moisture retention, soil pH, and reduces soil salinity. It enhances water distribution in the soil profile, increases equipment lifespan, and reduces energy consumption. Overall, activated water offers numerous benefits beyond biological exploitation industries, impacting equipment maintenance, food manufacturing, and energy efficiency. It breaks surface tension, reorganizes water particles, making it more soluble, lighter, and less viscous. It prevents clogging in irrigation lines, is easy to install, and reduces maintenance costs and time. The structured water's ability to retain energy and information in its memory enhances conservation programs, improving soil conditions, crop growth, and overall sustainability. Consistently, it increases the lifespan of equipment, reduces energy consumption, and eases the burden on pumping systems by preventing scale accumulation. This not only minimizes costs but also reduces the time required for maintenance. It prevents blockages in irrigation lines, making installation easy and lowering maintenance expenses. It's essential to note that these benefits are not only about costs but also the time invested in maintenance tasks. Speaker 1. Moving beyond the realm of biological subjects, the advantages of devices that energize water extend to various sectors. For instance, the use of structured water improves the strength of concrete during the curing process. Thus, water structuring has a broad impact on functions unrelated to biology. Speaker 1. I will stop sharing now to allow our colleague Marco to share his experience. Speaker 3. Excuse me, dear Jorge, Before Marco shares his practical experiences with structured water and the device that you, have as part of your scientific contribution, I would like to ask our colleagues if they have any questions about it, right? If they have any queries, something that clarifies our colleague Jorge's answer. Go ahead, Oscar. Speaker 4, thanks, Rosenberg, excellent talk, Giorgito? Very, very good presentation. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to know if structured water, simply by structuring itself, becomes free of pathogens. That's the question I wanted to ask you. Thank you. Speaker 1, well, the structure does not eliminate pathogens, but the energy it acquires facilitates that natural process because bacteria are unicellular organisms, not very complex, with a lifespan of barely 4 hours. When they are exposed to an energy field, they practically enter into bacteriostatic or even bactericidal activity. That's why moving water is of better quality, meaning water from a virgin river. That looks clear, hitting against rocks, usually forming waterfalls. It's extremely healthy water, even free of pathogens because it's in an environment full of energy. It's the energy that achieves the elimination of pathogens. A quite simple and domestic example is when you disconnect a refrigerator, and after a few days, it becomes completely foul. If you place a plate with charcoal, it starts to reduce this strong rotten smell in the refrigerator. This is because charcoal is a source of energy. So, energy has bacteriostatic capacity, meaning, bacteria are there, but they can't multiply, can't be reduced, reproduced, can't progress, and therefore, there is ultimately a reduction in the incidence of bacteria without charcoal being a deodorant, without charcoal being an absorbent of bad odors. Speaker 1, so, these energy principles, by themselves, contribute to the elimination of pathogens. So much so that it could be one of many positive alternatives for river cleaning. Right? I mean, there are actually excellent technologies at all levels. We could say that one reason they are not applied is that there are well-established interests. Almost like mafias that prevent the development of new technologies because with these new technologies, a whole network of distributors and industries that benefit from the mismanagement of water would disappear. And finally, the logic of the system is to create problems to profit from these problems. So, the more sick people we have, the more development there is in the pharmaceutical industry, and therefore, these old water treatment systems that are ultimately bad for human health continue to be used. Speaker 4, thank you, Jorge. Very kind. Speaker 3, thank you, my dear Jorge. Go ahead, natural medicine. Natural medicine. Please, your question. Let's see. Speaker 1, excuse me for not. Speaker 5, I was answering you, but my phone was. No, it got blocked. Let me see, are we talking about the same water that is created by the rotation of water and magnets? Right? Is that the type of water we are talking about? Speaker 1, it's the same type of water. But that's one of many technologies. Speaker 5, perfect. That's the one I know. Yes, that's the one I used. Yes. Speaker 1, I don't particularly use magnetism because it's lost when it passes through metallic elements. And instead of magnetism, I use nanotechnology. Speaker 3, thank you. Yes. The question is answered. Natural medicine. Speaker 5, yes, perfectly. Speaker 3, thank you. Thank you. I would like to ask you an additional question. Jorge? Using or consuming structured water allows certain existing diseases in people to gradually decrease and eventually disappear. Speaker 6, yes. Yes, obviously, it is essential to understand that the foundation of health lies in energy. Even if people are not sick but are dehydrated, they gradually lose energy. This is what happens with elderly people. As we age, we lose the capacity to retain water. That's why more wrinkles appear on our skin, because our cells are not filled with water as they should be, resulting in less energy. Water is not only a carrier of energy but also helps absorb cosmic energy, from which we also benefit. When we provide the body with structured water, we are supplying it with the energy it needs to maintain proper metabolism. This not only influences the proper functioning of organs but also normal metabolism and overall physiology. So much so that if an obese person consumes structured water, their weight regulates abnormally. If a malnourished person consumes structured water, they will also return to a balanced weight according to their age and physiology. It includes, therefore, all aspects of health processes. Speaker 3, thank you very much. Thank you, my dear. Now, these technologies, especially the one you have developed, are available to a large number of people, right? It is quite affordable, I understand. Speaker 1, well, I have created a device that is quite simple and economical. It's quite lightweight, and there are also fully industrial devices. The key is that any energy source can definitively influence water, because water is extremely sensitive and easily impacted by any energy element. The thing is, all elements have energy. All minerals, all metals. But some are not ideal for water, yet they are used because the energy aspect is not taken seriously. Therefore, ordinary people should realize that using stainless steel spoons and porcelain plates is not just a whim. They are the best materials in terms of energy for use in food. However, people are not aware of geometric shapes that are a source of energy, as in the case, for example, in the countryside in the past. I had the opportunity to know the countryside and indigenous communities when there was no water supplied by pipes. In these communities, water was taken from springs, transported in a kind of vessel, stored in a type of vessel, and the water remained fresh and healthy for an enormous number of days. Why? Because the geometric shape was what gave vitality to the water. So, the geometric shape of the vessels was not just a whim but corresponded to the real knowledge of how energy works. Practically, the vessels had the shape of a belly, an oval, an egg, where the natural, practically cosmic energy that is available to humans is concentrated. But, due to a materialistic view of life, we have learned to ignore this ancestral knowledge, which now corresponds to sacred geometry and quantum physics. Speaker 3, thank you very much. Thank you, my dear Jorge. Well, let's give the floor to our colleague Marco Chango Luis so that he can share his experiences in practical life with structured water. Go ahead, Marco. Speaker 7, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I think it is a pleasure to have contributed to the experiment with structured water. Thanks in advance, my dear friend Jorge. Jorge was kind enough to come to my house. We installed the structured water system. We took tap water and left the water to conduct the experiment. As you know, I gave 2 talks on sprouting, and we followed the sprouting process exactly as I had explained in the talks. However, I will briefly repeat the sprouting process. The first step is to choose the seeds. I must clarify that we used organic seeds. In this case, we selected 3 types of seeds: organic wheat, organic alfalfa, and organic lentils. We followed the same procedure with both structured water and the rested water or tap water. Just before using tap water, we let it sit for at least an hour. We made everything as conscious as possible. In the following days, we observed how the sprouts were growing, and it was always much more visible that structured water was doing its job within these seeds, and the sprouts were much more pronounced. For me, it has been very beneficial because at the end of the germination period, which is on the 7th, 8th, or 9th day, we extracted chlorophyll, and what we also noticed is that much more chlorophyll came out of the structured water than from the rested water. I don't know why that is, Jorge. If you could clarify that part, because it's as if it contains more liquids, I don't know why the same process was done, but the difference was very noticeable. We extracted chlorophyll from the containers you brought. Everything was done in glass Pyrex, both the rested water and the structured water. And I don't understand why the chlorophyll in structured water was more. It has been a very gratifying experience for us, and I hope that we can happily share this knowledge in a public institution where we have a training program. We will spread the word about structured water because it is truly a discovery for us. For you, Jorge, who has been doing this for several years, it's not new, but for us, it is. For us, who are venturing into sprouting, it has been very rewarding. I feel honored to have been part of this test, this experiment, which will be of great benefit to everyone. That's what I can share. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Speaker 3, thank you, my dear Marco. Do you happen to have any photographic memory of these experiments? Speaker 7, unfortunately, my phone got damaged. I took the photos with my phone, and I had to delete them because my phone completely froze. But Jorge has the photos. I shared them with Jorge, and he even has the video in which we installed the structured water system, did the test. And something I also wanted to share that made Jorge just smile was when we installed this system. I took it out of Jorge's car, put it in the place where we were going to install it, and when we finished this process, it was time to put it back in the car. It weighed at least twice as much as usual. I didn't understand this part. Jorge also couldn't explain why this device weighed much more at that moment. Even at that time, he didn't know why. I just took out the device, although it is quite heavy. But when it came to putting it back in the car, I couldn't do it. We had to take it out. Between Jorge and me, we did the test in the trunk of Jorge's car, and because he had two devices, one we used and the other he had in the trunk. I lifted the device from the trunk, and it weighed the same as the other when I put it down. But when we lifted it again to put it back in the trunk, it weighed at least twice as much. So these are questions that obviously Jorge can explain to us. Thank you. Speaker 1, I would like to share with you. It is an experiment that was done domestically with milk. I will request to share the screen because it is a demonstration of how energy can influence precisely the duration of products, the preservation of products on shelves. But it's not just about improving that, it improves the quality of all the food in every way. The food becomes energy, so to speak, or increases its energy, but in a special way. I have also conducted tests with diesel. Does diesel stop emitting so much smoke, huh? It consumes much faster, burns much brighter, and leaves fewer residues. Particularly, it worked with alcohol, with spirits, which practically turns spirits into a medicine. Because the human body cannot on its own clean all the toxins that exist, not only at the cellular level but also at the level of neurons. A layer of toxins is established, which is not only not easy to remove but also additionally causes diseases, such as mental illnesses like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, even madness. So, what is it about? The energized alcohol becomes a pharmaceutical. Let's say, it has the potential to become the element that can clean and eliminate the toxins that exist between neurons. So, I would like to share the homemade experiment that was done regarding milk so that you can see objective evidence of how these energy fields are capable of positively modifying biological substances, as I mentioned, things that are not related to the biological aspect. Speaker 1, it also influences oxidation processes, as I mentioned, even in concrete casting, among various other factors where water always plays a role. So, I'll allow myself to share the screen again. Very well. I'll read the content. Report on the influences. Let's say influences of energy on milk. Background: in order to observe possible positive effects on milk, a domestic test was conducted at room temperature with 400 milliliters of samples, divided into 2 glass cups. One sample went through the device with the energy core, and the control sample was regular milk. In both cases, the chosen milk was pasteurized from a well-known commercial brand in the market, specifically not long-lasting to avoid distortions due to the presence of chemicals that slow down the demonstrative process. Here we have speaker 1, using the same cups as the onion growth test, but in this case, defects in the milk are observed. Where we see the orange dot and the red dot. Is it about the milk that went through the structuring device? In the photo on the right, the literature is misplaced because the photo with the red dot is the milk that went through the device. From the 4th day onwards, the milk that did not go through the device not only started to curdle but also began to develop fungus, ultimately causing decay. On the 6th day, the milk that did not go through the device, speaker 1, was already completely spoiled. Meanwhile, the other remained normal. On the 9th day, the milk that did not go through the device was completely rotten, and the one that did began to sour only from the 9th day. This set of photographs indicates the time of preservation versus the degradation of milk for energized milk and control milk. The test lasted until the 9th day when the energized milk began to sour and develop fungi. The goal is to demonstrate understanding the potential beneficial effects on milk and draw conclusions and suggestions. The process for a better understanding. The images above demonstrate the defects found due to the process of milk energization. The entire process was carried out at room temperature on a kitchen counter, so the temperature of the area is always slightly higher due to cooking in that home environment. Conclusive aspects. Molecular resonance effect technology affects liquid substances other than water in a similar way, just like water changing its molecular organization. Many food products on the market, including milk, have chemical preservatives. These chemicals hinder fermentation processes and affect food assimilation, slowing down metabolism as a result. As an example of this reality, holistic-oriented doctors do not recommend drinking processed milk available in the market because the body can hardly absorb it. The restructuring process changes the milk's structure, prevents the harmful effect of chemical preservatives, and induces the natural lactic fermentation process in processed structured milk. Speaker 1, lactic fermentation began on the 4th day, and in regular processed milk, it did not start at all. As a result, the restructuring process facilitates milk absorption and improves and speeds up metabolism. Structured milk did not start to sour until the 9th day of the test. At that time, regular milk was completely covered in mold and had a strong rotten smell. This test demonstrates that the restructuring process accelerates and improves lactic fermentation and prevents decay. As a result, it improves the assimilation of healthy nutrients in the body. Recommendations. Ideally, milk should be natural and processed in the industry without resorting to chemical preservatives. Milk cooling tanks should correspond to improved geometric design and appropriate materials. Therefore, stirring paddles can be modified to increase milk energy to facilitate the normal development of lactic ferments and prevent the development of degradation agents. It is suitable to pass milk through an energy field, which is preserved and increased when cooling tanks can be modified. In the agri-food industry, energetic homogenization causes the final product to become a transmitting carrier of energy that improves metabolic assimilation. It prevents milk from causing disorders in the consumer's body. The process of energization in beverages, including lacto-alcoholic creams, is of special interest. Now? Yes. If you have patience, I could show the photos of Marco's plant germination. He did. Speaker 4, I believe so. Giorgito is interesting. Speaker 2, I have something to say about what you are talking about regarding preservatives in milk. I don't know the food regulations of Ecuador, but I am very familiar with those of Colombia due to my profession, and I have worked within dairy companies. So I can assure you that no preservatives are added to milk. The processes used are physical processes, such as high-temperature processes like pasteurization or ultrapasteurization, commonly known worldwide. Therefore, it is possible that some preservatives are used in other dairy products, but in liquid milk itself, no preservatives are used, at least here in Colombia. So what you mentioned there, for me, lacks foundation. Speaker 1, well, it may be that you have a good process there, but here, we are aware of some distortions that exist. For example, they collect milk that has not been purchased within the expiration period and return it to the treatment plant. New chemicals are added, and it is put back on the market. A situation that happens here. Well, now I'm going to move on to showing there, photographs of Marco's work, also reading the report. Report on germination tests of plant seeds grown indoors. Background: a series of tests were carried out to observe the influences of structured water on the appearance of sprouts in the germination of indoor plant seeds. In total, 2 series of tests were carried out in different locations. In a first domestic test, particularly noticeable, results were determined in one of the cases, intentionally trying to suppress water supply to draw conclusions once the effect can be recorded. Objective: determine the memory capacity of structured water and its effect on biological subjects. Procedure: this test was designed to compare the growth cycle of soybean seeds after 15 days, for which an exact number of seeds were taken, distributed into 2 groups of 20 beans each, watered with structured water and regular water. Both waters from the same source, tap water from the city of Quito. At the end of this test, the group of beans watered with structured water had 13 sprouts with an average length of 9 inches. Speaker 1, here we have. On the first day of the test and on the 15th day, the control group of beans watered with regular water had only 7 sprouts with an average length of 4 inches. This test clearly confirmed the fact of a significant improvement and acceleration of plant growth watered with structured water. This is the result of achieving better absorption and a higher level of energy from structured water for the suppression of mold in structured water. Also, as an additional test, 2 onions were chosen in which it is observed that the onion watered with structured water shows improved and accelerated root growth. This is the result of higher absorption and higher energy level of structured water that enhances biochemical reactions in living systems. Well, that's what we already saw in the other presentation. Finally, a water deprivation test was carried out. This was designed to compare the results of the irrigation suppression effect on tomato and parsley plants with regular water, control group, and structured water, test group. The test was designed as follows. The plants were planted indoors at room temperature and were watered for 5 weeks with regular tap water and structured tap water, respectively. Clearly demonstrate that plants irrigated with structured water developed much better resistance to water stress and deprivation compared to the plants irrigated with regular water. This is the seeds and initial planting. Then the differentiated development in the first stage, and finally, at the end of water suppression. Plants irrigated with regular water practically undergo flattening because regular water has no memory and therefore does not facilitate to the plant the energy is sufficient to keep it standing, despite being irrigated for the same period of time. So, from the water deprivation test on tomato and parsley plants, we can see the effects. With tap water, the control water, with the structuring device. It was, well, really significant. Right? We can see in those photographs the effects that practically lead to wilting or dehydration, while the other plants remain completely active. Now let's move on to see, more than anything, the photographs of germination. First, how did the process start, Marco? In, Pyrex containers. With in the different samples of different seeds in their varieties of lentils, wheat, alfalfa, No. Yes. Here they are arranged in there. In the jars. Here. We already see some first sprouts as the lentil begins to break the cuticle and show the first shoots. So there are just a few little legs that can be seen there. Speaker 7, excuse me, Giorgito. Please. This jar corresponds to rested water, directly from the tap, obviously rested. More than an hour, right? The next jar. Go ahead, please. This one is structured water. We can see the difference. In the other one, there were about 2 to 3 millimeters, and here we already have between 5 and 7 millimeters of sprouts. We can see the big difference. Speaker 1, let's continue. So, here we have wheat. And the same wheat. Speaker 7, exactly. We can see the difference between one jar and the other jar. Speaker 1, very well. Here we have alfalfa with rested water. Speaker 8, MHM. Speaker 1, the same germination with structured water. Speaker 7, it's really noticeable the difference, Giorgito. Speaker 1, here we have another clue, that clearly demonstrates the difference. From the 5th day. Well, notice that in just 5 days there is practically a development of foliage. We already have here the wheat with regular water. And the wheat germ. Speaker 7, haven't you put the other photo, Giorgito? Speaker 1, oh, maybe the photo got lost. No. Speaker 7, yes, yes, yes. If it's not that one. Speaker 8, yes. Speaker 1, and this is, Speaker 7, that's alfalfa. Speaker 1, the alfalfa. Speaker 7, yes, if that was wheat, unfortunately you didn't put the one with structured water. That's the one with rested water. Here we are grinding the sprout to extract the chlorophyll. Speaker 1, very well, that's the set of photographs, but some may have been lost. Speaker 3, some. Thanks, my dear Hawke. Are these demonstrative topics important? Right? And the experiences that are being done with colleagues to see the difference between structured water and the normal water that we consume. Go ahead, Hugo. Speaker 8, good evening, everyone. Let's see. Speaker 7, there's always something. Speaker 1, important. Speaker 8, huh? In everything we can analyze in situations, especially when it comes to energy topics. Speaker 6, and. Speaker 8, it must be understood that everything that enters into a process of industrialization, to be approved by the respective health ministries of each country, they must comply with certain regulations for preservatives and elements that help them be suitable for human consumption and have durability and can be preserved in cold or ambient conditions. The part of structured water is an experience that is documented. And the best experience, especially the one you have to live. It's not easy to find devices to have our structured water. Just as it is not easy to find anywhere a shell that is not contaminated, because there may be a shell that comes already with water contaminated by different fertilizers and chemicals or by mines that discharge these pollutants into rivers. You live there, experience. Do your tests. Document the information. But for, the topic of energy, no matter how documented, strengthened these experiences are, as the one that has just been presented. Right, as answer, from the experience of our colleague Marco Lewis, right? So, they always want more, they want more tests. They want more testimonials, and they never stop asking to avoid it from being knowledge, and use for the benefit of people and communities. Speaker 6, sometimes you have to invest a little to be able to improve the well-being and health of our family and our communities. But what I can assure you is that these topics, always controversial. Someone may say, like Hawke was saying about the milk that they add this with, the devices can improve the quality of milk to avoid those contaminants added to make these products more durable and less harmful. But that happens everywhere. Just excuse the expression, but it's just that it depends on the cleanliness of the cow's udder for it to be said that it's uncontaminated, and it will depend on the food or pasture given to that animal as well. So, experience it now. Look at this wonderful testimony that has just been given, demonstrating the results. You might think that perhaps, as sometimes they say, it was staged, maybe they copied it from somewhere else. Well, it has been proven here, only a testimony. Try it out, share your experience. Comrade Jorge Azanza has the devices, you won't find them at a hardware store just around the corner. These things. No, they're not sold just like any other product, in any establishment. You have the opportunity to make a change in life, to improve many things for your well-being and health, and live your own experience. But the knowledge you have just received from scientific and exponential information in the field of science has been accumulated over the years, and only if you dare to live it, you will see the excellent results that we are demonstrating to you. We will put this into practice in the processing plants and in health projects. We will put it into practice in everything we develop together with communities, for those who align themselves with this new way of carrying out projects with innovative things, right? Thank you very much. Speaker 3, thank you, my dear Hugo, thank you very much for your comment. Go ahead, natural medicine. Speaker 5, I always have problems with this technology stuff. Let me offer you, for the next Thursday when I'm in my office, to give you a detailed explanation of how I can make a homemade machine. To make structured water using magnets, using a bucket of water. These are things we can find at home, not very difficult to do. Just as Hugo said, to have the experience, to do our own experiment and try. I have structured water, I haven't used it for quite some time. I stuck with magnetized water, nothing else. And structured water for as long as it takes for an earthquake to happen. I admit, I shouldn't have stopped using it, but I have stopped using it for a long time. What I use is magnetized water, nothing else, but I can sketch out how to make a small homemade project to have a small structured water generator at home. Speaker 4, thank you, Jorge. Well, first of all, congratulations to Jorge Azanza for the excellent presentation on structured water. Also, thanks to Marco who has been conducting experiments with germinated plants and in conjunction with structured water. Keep in mind that these are energies and technologies that help us a lot. In my case, for the processing part, we want to use structured water because we are convinced that this works and helps a lot. So, I think that is very important. So, thank you to Jorge and the team for all the work today, and thanks to you for being here with us, asking questions, and intending to be with us. Thank you very much, everyone, and have an excellent night.